there's this version of me that I thought I was,
Mm-hmm.
and there's the version of me that I acted like.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that the gulf between the two was much bigger than I was comfortable with. So I wasn't going to move this guy to this guy. I wanted to be the guy I thought I was. So I decided to change my behavior and move this guy here. The closer I could get him to here, what I can get myself to being the guy I thought I was, took work.
Tell me why, oh why it feels so right. It feels so right to be alone. Whether day or night, rain or shine, it feels so right to be alone.
When I was really young, my mother was afraid of me in my neighborhood, like what would happen to a young boy, no father. That she I used to take these movie posters from a theater I worked at, and she wrote a poem on the back of the post, and she stuck it on the back of the front door, and she would not let me leave the house until I read it aloud to her. She would stop, put her arm around me, make me read the poem out loud, and then I would go out. And this happened for years, every time. And I'm at a point in my life where maybe I'm going to make bad decisions. And then that fucking words in that poem started to get louder and louder in my head. And I'm like, I guess I can't do that because of this. So as I got older, I thought about the formative years of my life, and I thought about that poem. And then I put my actions through the filter of that poem, and I went, oh yeah, I'm not doing that. It's time to recalibrate.
Can you recite the poem?
The first part, it says, I have to live with myself, and so I want to be fit for myself to know. I want to sit with the setting sun and not hate myself for the things I've done. I want to stand as the days go by and be able to look the world straight in the eye. And that last line is the one that stuck with me. I want to be able to look the world straight in the eye. Well, for me to do that, I have to stop doing this. I have to be more intentional about that. And I have to do, and also because I'm a pretty rugged individual, kind of, for all the wrong reasons, tough guy. You know, even though I'm a vegan who has an electric car, I'm a pretty edgy, tough guy in how I've grown up and how I operate. And I thought, well, what's the point of being a tough guy if you're not going to use that strength to protect as opposed to tear down? So I just started to make adjustments in my brain and went, well, just don't do that, dude. Don't be like that. Don't do that. So I have constant conversations with myself when I'm out doing things, just going, no, that's not the way to do it. I don't blame myself for my first reaction in my head, but the second reaction is what you say. That's the gap. I never let my first thought go out. My first thought is angry, toxic, grown-up kid, tough kid. That guy is who I am. That's the energy source. And I just make sure that I have a huge barrier from that guy to my actual actions. Because how you treat people is way more interesting than how you think.
Yeah.
I don't care about your feelings. I care about how you treat people.
Yeah.
So I just decided that was the thing I had to focus on.
Is your mom still alive?
Yeah, she's there.
And like, just think about what she gave. Like that.
God, I got nothing.
Right?
Yeah, we have almost nothing in common except that how you treat people is the thing. It's the only.
Switching gears for a minute, because I'm actually really curious about what you think. By the time this airs, the election will be over.
Oh yeah, the election.
Right?
I overdosed on political content.
Me too. Like it was actually creating, it still is right now, creating me a lot of anxiety for me, because I feel like it's been so much. The world is just, it's a fucking mess like it's just been, it's a mess out there. I really worry about the state of humanity in a existential way. Like I feel like something awful is happening and I don't know how to kind of grab it, because it feels like it's all around me. It's messy and it's ugly. And so the election will have happened by the time this is over. I have been very public and very, very vocal, as have you, through this, about kind of what I believe and what I hold dear in terms of values.
Did you endorse somebody? Because I didn't endorse anybody.
Did.
You did?
I did. And I've never done that before.
Pierre Polyev, thank you for your
endorsement. Yeah, he did. He called me right away and said, how did you know?
No, I didn't endorse anybody.
No.
Okay. But you endorsed somebody.
I did. I endorsed Carney. And only because I felt like we were in this moment in time that, I mean, I've been nonpartisan forever. I have voted across all party lines. I haven't been loyal to a party. I've been always thinking about who's the leader that I believe is going to, solve the problems. And I think, and for some reason at this time, I just thought I'm going to say that I believe it's him. And the crap I took, it was, and still take ever since I've said that.
I don't endorse anybody.
Yeah.
I don't
But you
endorse any
vote.
party. Oh, I vote all the time.
So you do endorse somebody, you just aren't telling
I
people.
don't tell anybody. Yeah. And I sometimes vote and I hate myself for my vote because sometimes I make a strategic vote and I hate that. And sometimes I don't make a strategic vote. Sometimes I'll throw the future, I'll take the risk because I'm just going to vote the way I want to vote. I do that too. I struggle with the voting thing.
Yeah.
When I worked at Much Music, I remember Denise Donlan gave me a Much Votes pin. And she handed me a pin. She goes, "Hey, wear this on the air." And I remember saying to her, "But voting doesn't matter." And she says, "It does." And I said, and I counted that old line that people like me like to say, if it really mattered, they wouldn't let you do it. But I recognize,
they wouldn't they wouldn't give me a pencil if it really mattered.
I know that voting matters. I know that, right?
Okay.
But I despise what they did to this country, what the House of Commons has done to this country. I despise that the focus has been taken off of getting people out of poverty, protecting workers, giving people the freedom to express themselves. And the two big federal parties have played a role in this.
Mm-hmm.
Provincially, the occasional NDP government, but really not in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
So there are two parties in this country that have turned this country into what it is today. So when we complain about this country, there are two parties responsible for it. And their relationships with corporations and how corporate money and lobby groups have destroyed the actual version of democracy. I'm not even sure we ever had it, but certainly the hope towards having it. So I grew up listening to way too much punk and metal to really believe that they have our best interests at heart. I do. I know that that's partly my cynicism. So I work very hard to stay engaged and work at it regardless. Tell you what I've learned. And I just did this thing in California with Bernie Sanders Institute. It was about homelessness in California. And, family members of mine died on the street homeless in Toronto. So it's very close to my heart. Yeah. So I grew up, this is why I hate most political parties, because I don't think they care for poor people. I don't. I don't think they do. I think they do. I hate the fact that our government sends money or weapons or helps arm the destruction of another group of people around the world. I hate that. How can I endorse any party that has played a role? Like, how can I? Doesn't mean I don't participate in the system, but to give them my endorsement, I wouldn't do that because it didn't jive with my values, right? With my values. So, but when I did this Bernie Sanders thing, there were a lot of politicians there whom I also don't like, who are there. But you look at the actual work being done on the ground. And it was by activists and advocates and people who care.
It's true.
So I put my energy there. I still participate. I still interview politicians. I still do all that. But I'm really not. I love Canada and I love Toronto. Love it.
Yeah.
I don't love it for what it is. I love it for the promise it ought to be. And this country gave my family so much when they immigrated here. So much. But that doesn't mean that it can't be better and it can't grow. So I just have higher standards for them. But until we get money out of politics and get religion out of politics, we will be this mess. I really believe that. So I don't think any endorsement. I've had friends run recently. Friends asked me to endorse them. And I was like, no. And I like them, but no, because your party is going to make you do shit that I then have to answer for. I don't want to do that.
He makes some really good points, and I think they're very fair. And it does.
But I'm not mad at people who do, by the way.
I think honestly, as I said, for years I had never done this, and I don't like everything about the platform. I don't like everything about what I'm hearing, but I like more about what I'm hearing than not. And so it to me it was like, okay, you have to at least, and I felt an obligation that I wish I didn't feel. And so when I listened to you, I think, shit, Arlene, you probably should have held on more closely to, your own view to yourself And I don't regret it. I've done it.
not at all. Yeah.
Speaking of regrets, like,
Yeah.
maybe I will regret it. Maybe as soon as I sent it, I wish I hadn't in a little bit, but I did.
I remember Noel Gallagher telling me that he got caught up in the Tony Blair movement.
Yeah.
And he said he'll never do it again.
Yeah.
When Tony Blair joined George Bush, went to the War in Iraq, and he went, I'll never do it again. I don't think it's bad to endorse politicians. I don't. In fact, I think I think for the political system to get better, we need lots of people participating in lots of different. Just where my values are at the moment, find it very difficult to endorse. If somebody stepped up and said, my number one job is to get people out of poverty, and I'm going to make sure that is our primary goal, because the more people that participate in the system, the better it is, the more equality. If there was somebody who did that, because that's my driving issue, I would say, well, you know what? I'll work with you then. So I don't support politicians, but I do support their work.
Yes.
So I'll show up for them.
Caring about people. You said that poverty was really important to you.
Number one.
And you said you had family that has died on the streets. Tell me about that. Tell me.
Addiction and mental health struggles, and put people in certain situations, and that's what happens. It's I come from, and my friends, same thing. Friends who would either die in jail or outside of it. Addiction plays a huge role in this. A lot of it's connected to, depends on how much you subscribe to the Gabor Mate thing and trauma and its impact on you. I think there's a lot of value in some of that stuff that he says. And it was also the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
It was a pretty bleak time. But we didn't have the tools and the language that we have now, obviously. So I think, if you fell through the cracks back then, there were not, in one way, there was more of a social safety net for sure, but it didn't catch everybody. And sometimes it feels like there's fewer and fewer options to be caught now, as you spiral out of the system. So, yeah, but addiction's really the thing. It was drugs and alcohol that really destroys so many lives.
And was this a close family member? Yeah.
Yeah.
My sister has mental health issues, and she fell through the cracks. She's still alive, but she went through that whole era, because she's older than I am, of where mental health was, it was shock treatments. It was all of the drugs they gave them were just not. It was like a concoction they were creating, because they were just starting to understand mental health. Yeah. And, just almost like no matter what they did, they couldn't, it just made it worse instead of better. And it's just so hard to watch, because you can't, as a family member, really, it's almost impossible to help them. Yeah. And you want to, but you don't know what to do. So this
is why I believe in government. As much as I am a libertarian in so many aspects of my life, I know that I'm actually not, because I don't trust big companies to put people's best interest at heart, because their only job is to increase the value of their shares.
You don't think Amazon's putting people's best lives?
I don't think anybody is. But I do think that I don't need my government to run like a business, because it's not a business. It's not about a return on investment. The government's job is to protect people. I think there should be oversight in the government so that we don't have wasteful spending and corruption. I think corruption is obviously a problem. But my thing is protect people. John Chrétien, the Prime Minister, told me once, a government's number one job is to protect the minority from the tyranny of the majority.
Yeah.
Because anybody can say, well, whatever the majority wants, but the majority is not always right.
Yep.
The majority was pro-slavery. The majority is not always right. He said, you have to protect the minority from the tyranny of the majority. And I really believe in that. I really believe in that. And so that's why poverty is the number one issue for me, because I know that most people are poor not because of their own doing. Sure, you get into cycles and there are reasons to make it harder to break out of it that you can have some role in, but not really.
Yep.
Not really. I grew up in Jane Wilson, Jane Finch, and Rexdale and Malta, and people work really hard. Parents. Yeah.
2 jobs, 3 jobs. Yeah.
My mom had 3 jobs myself.
Yeah.
So
it's not a work ethic thing.
No. In fact, they're the hardest working.
Yeah.
But it's not just empathy for the people who we're trying to protect. It's the hard part is having empathy for the villains.
It's really hard.
It's hard. But I work really hard on it. I'm very lucky that I listen to very toxic music. So I listen to very problematic music. And that means that a lot of people who hate me politically also like the same bands that I like. So we have a little meeting ground in this one place where I'm like, I don't know what the singer's saying. God, I don't want to Google the lyrics, but I love this band. So I have touch points with people. I also like very aggressive, violent sports. So I don't mind when I love hockey fights. I'm not a UFC guy by any means, but I like really aggressive
Football.
Football. I just love collisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love danger. So I find common ground with people who I don't have the same political views. So it's finding common ground over a shared plate of onion rings, right? That's really interesting to me. Because what is the point for me as somebody whose job it is to connect you to ideas and be a communicator? I don't want to be somebody. No, look, I don't want to hang around with Nazis. It's not like that. I don't think you have
No,
make
because
the
you're not
world
going to
better.
change their.
Yeah. It's not like that. And I have no problem when people punch Nazis. I don't got time for those guys. But you can get to the common ground. It's just you want to protect your family. All right. Well, now I was interviewed by somebody the other day and he told me he didn't believe in big government. I said, "Oh, so you believe in big corporations?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, you would have to because government's job is to protect you from."
If they're not, it's got to be the corporations. Yeah.
Right. Do you trust corporations? He's like, "No." I said, "Okay, well," so I said, "Do you have a problem with bureaucracy and red tape?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Me too." Now we have common ground.
Right.
So I'm trying to always get to the heart of the matter to see, can we find a place to be that we can agree on, because again, otherwise I would be alone all the time. And I don't think it's good for me to be alone all the time.
Is that how you create relationships? When you have had relationships, is it because you found common ground with somebody?
Sure.
So just maybe we can. I'm going to ask the question: when you have had romantic relationships, what?
They hate the music I listen to.
Yeah, I was going to say, where do you find the common ground?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to be around really sweet people.
Yeah.
I think sweetness is really underrated.
Explain to me what sweetness is to you.
I think it's being conscientious about what they're feeling and where they are in the moment.
Yeah.
And finding the right moment to show them how they matter, to remove doubts from their brain, to allow them to take the pressure off themselves. I'm a hard guy to be around because I'm very confident and I'm very self-assured. And because I've been a broadcaster for so long, I have a certain facility for words. So I'm not a smart guy, but I know how to communicate. And my whole goal in life is, if I can break it down, I don't want anybody to ever, if for even a sliver of time, to be self-conscious around me.
Oh, I like that.
That is my whole goal. So if I'm dating somebody or not, I want them to feel like they can be themselves at all time. They don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing or making a mistake. They don't have to put on airs. They don't have to get it right. I don't want any of that shit. And when I'm walking down the street, I don't want somebody to be self-conscious. Not that they would know who I am, but even the way I approach how I walk up to people and walk by people. I don't want anybody to ever be self-conscious, because I think that's a thing that's placed on us by shitty upbringings, weird cultures, and it's not helpful. It's why people feel shame. It's why people self-harm. Well, one of the reasons. It's why people don't feel like they can be themselves. And I'm such a freedom of expression absolutist in many respects that I know how much value, and of all the people I've interviewed in my life, the people who really express themselves, God, they're winning. They are winning. And I want everybody around me to know, you be you, boo. Like, you be you. And it's my responsibility to adjust to you, not your responsibility to adjust to me. I have so much joy in seeing somebody be themselves. I love it so much, especially in the dating world, because people are so fucking weird. And
That's so true.
Yeah, and because I was on TV for so long, I couldn't meet anybody in Canada who didn't see me through the lens of that.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
Yeah.
I was one of those. One of my really good friends who I've known since long before we did this for a living was Russell Peters. I've known Russell Peters since we were teenagers, long before any public eye. And, we'll still see each other once a year. We'll catch up, the occasional text message. But when we see each other, we're the same guys that we were back then. And neither of us liked the attention. We understood that it was valuable and it helped us continue to do ourselves.
So relate to that.
We didn't like, especially from women, we didn't like people who liked us for what we did.
Yeah. See, I guess I've learned a lot just talking to you, because I feel about what you have taught me is that relationships are better when you have empathy. Because if you don't have empathy for what somebody's going through, whether they're lonely or whether they're struggling with something or whether they're going through whatever they're going through, it just doesn't, you're not a good person then. I actually think that's true. I think you're not a good person if you can't empathize with somebody who has less than you or is a different situation than you and who deserves as much as you do. And it's so easy to separate yourself because somehow you think you're better than because look what I've done. Well, I've never thought that because I've never felt like I really deserved what I've got. So I've always felt like it could be taken away from me at any time.
I put no stock in
right?
what I've accomplished in my life.
No.
I've only accomplished it because of the grace of others. Sure, I work really hard. I definitely do. And I work at a level that's practically toxic.
Yeah.
But there are lots of people who work. I got lucky. I benefited from privilege. I benefited from the grace of others, those who had no reason to care about me. I place no value in anything in my career except that I can look the world straight in the eye when I go to sleep at night. That's what matters to me. And when I can't, I have to make an adjustment for it.
I love the complexity of George. I love it. I mean, I did not ask you one question.
Rapid fire.
Not one. No. I'm not going to because I enjoyed our conversation so much. I mean, okay, well, I'll rapid fire one. Are you in a relationship right now?
I won't answer that question. Next question. Next question.
The only question I wanted to ask.
Next question. Next question.
Why not? And when did it end?
I'm a bad bet.
You are a bad bet. There's so many lessons that we have had today. Like, honestly, it's just been, I feel smarter, better, a little bit more self-aware, a little bit more ready for, being a better person as an individual with my relationships. And it's all because of spending time with you.
Thank you.
See you next time on Arlene Is Alone.